What's up, guys? It's MB Boxing, and today I'm going to be predicting the outcome of Billy Joe Saunders versus Martin Murray, which will be a 12-rounder for the WBO Super-Middleweight World Championship. And this fight will be Friday, December 4th from the SSE Arena in Wembley, England. And this fight will be broadcasted on DAZN in the United States and Sky Sports abroad. And again, both fighters, the world champion Billy Joe Saunders, 29-0, 14 wins coming by way of knockout. He is the former WBO middleweight world champion, moved up in weight to win the WBO Super-Middleweight World Championship, and that is a title he currently holds. He's ranked number 4 by BoxRec. Back at middleweight, when he's fighting at a European level, he beat John Ryder by unanimous decision. He beat Chris Eubank in a very good fight by split decision. Then he took on another slouch, I guess you could say. Then he took on Andy Lee for the WBO middleweight world title. He dropped Andy Lee a couple times, and the fight was actually a very entertaining, close fight. I believe that was in 2015. And Andy Lee, he was able to sort of close the gap as the fight went on. It was ultimately a majority decision win for Billy Joe Saunders, though. At first, Billy Joe Saunders defended his WBO middleweight crown against Artur Arkavov, winning by unanimous decision. A wide unanimous decision, I have to say. I mean, really all of his title defenses were by wide unanimous decision. He beat Willie Monroe Jr. by wide decision. David Lemieux, he outboxed the hell out of him. I mean, he really beat up David Lemieux just with that jab and the movement. Then he took on, after beating David Lemieux, a sort of a step-up fight at super middleweight. His first fight at super middleweight it wasn't really against a big fighter, just sort of to, I guess you could say, gauge his range in the super middleweight division. Then he immediately took on Shafat Isufu, who I didn't even know who he is, and he challenged him for the vacant WBO super middleweight world title. Billy Joe Saunders did win that fight, ultimately by wide unanimous decision, but some people are sort of criticizing Saunders, and speaking of other WBO champions, Demetrius Andrade, because they were supposed to get in the ring a couple times, and they're known for not fighting the best competition. Both guys are like, I want Canelo, I want this fight, but you haven't beat anybody good. Even for the world title, Saunders' last really good win was against Andy Lee and against Chris Eubank Jr. back when he was at middleweight. But he hasn't really got any other good wins since defending that WBO middleweight title and at super middleweight. His last fight was a very bad performance against Marcelo Coceres. He won by KO ultimately in the 11th round. But I had Coceres winning that fight, and Coceres, maybe it's just that Saunders wasn't taking that fight seriously, but Coceres was an Argentinian that nobody heard of. Even though he was 28-0, nobody knew who Coceres was. And Billy Joe Saunders really didn't look good. He was not throwing any punches. Coceres was dominating the action. He was the aggressor in the fight. But then Billy Joe Saunders did what he hasn't done in many fights before, got a knockout there. He's only got 14 knockouts, just almost half of his KO percentage. But he really isn't a power puncher. He's more of a boxer. He has a great jab, good movement. But in his U.S. debut, as I said before, against Coceres, he didn't box as well as he should have. He should have stayed in the back foot, jab, jab, jab. But instead, he was sort of just trying to walk with the pace of Coceres. Coceres is more of a hooker, standing around, trying to close the distance, land hooks on the inside. And he was trying to trade with Coceres, but that wasn't what he should have done. He should have just boxed like normal and got a wide unanimous decision win. But moving on to his opponent, Martin Murray, the veteran challenging for many world titles in the middleweight and super middleweight division. He has a record of 39 wins, 5 defeats, 1 draw, with 17 wins coming by way of knockout. He's ranked number 15 by BoxRec. His losses are to some of the top guys. His most recent loss to Hassan Endam for the WBC silver middleweight world title. He also has losses to Sergio Martinez for the WBC middleweight title. He has a 1 KO loss to Triple G. That's his only KO loss for the WBA and interim WBC middleweight world title. And that was years ago, back when Triple G was knocking out everybody in the middleweight division. He also has a split decision loss, which I think he won that fight against Arthur Abraham for the WBO Super Middleweight World title. He has a loss for the WBA International title against George Groves. And he has a draw against Felix Strum for the WBA Super Middleweight World title, which most people thought he won that fight, but since it was in Germany, they obviously gave Strum a draw. He is also the former interim WBA middleweight world champion, getting a KO win against the formerly undefeated Jorge Navarro. He immediately went into that Sergio Martinez fight, as I said before, losing, obviously. But he also has another win to Gabriel Rosado, which is a very good win considering his performance against Daniel Jacobs last week. But his last fight was against Sladan Janjanin. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but he won via unanimous decision. And I have to say this, Martin Murray is 100% past his prime. He has a very good chin. I don't think he's getting knocked out here, but I just don't see him beating Billy Joe Saunders at all. I mean, he really has nothing to lose. He's in his late 30s. He's challenged for many world titles. He's a former interim champion. He really has nothing to lose because he's expected to lose his fight. But the one who has a lot to lose is Billy Joe Saunders. He wants to look good. He wants to get that Canelo fight. He wants to get the millions. He wants to win and be a superstar. Most people in America really don't know who Saunders is, even though he's a world champion and a recognized belt, not like the IBO title or an interim title. He's a main world champion and a two-time world champion, in fact, and two-weight world champion. And most people in the United States don't even know who he is. And based on that performance against Kosares, people aren't going to be wanting to watch him again. But in this fight, if the right Billy Joe Saunders shows up, I see him winning wide on the scorecards. If not, then Martin Murray will gauge the distance and land some very good shots on Billy Joe Saunders, likely to the body since Saunders really has good head movement. Even that Kosares fight, Kosares wasn't really landing too much to the head. He was just digging to the body, and that's really what sort of stopped Saunders in his tracks. But I think Martin Murray will get outpointed here. I think Billy Joe Saunders doesn't really have enough to knock out Murray, being that Triple G is the only guy that has. So I'm thinking that Billy Joe Saunders will improve to 30-0 and get another Super-Middleweight world title defense. And I believe that after he wins this fight, which I think he will take on Demetrius Andrade, if not Canelo. One of those guys is definitely a fight that makes a lot of sense. That fight with Canelo will be at Super-Middleweight. Same with the fight versus Andrade, which was supposed to happen at middleweight a couple of years back. But in this fight, I see Billy Joe Saunders outboxing Martin Murray, getting a unanimous decision win to defend his Super-Middleweight world title and to improve to 30-0. And the scorecards are likely going to be wide. I think it's going to be like sort of the William Monroe fight or David Lemieux fight, like 120, 108, 119, 109, or 118 to 110. And yeah, that's really it. I'm going to be boxing. Thanks for watching, and see you guys later.